All right, Rob. Yeah, as you mentioned, and I'm sure just about everybody knows now that yesterday at the Kansas City Chiefs parade to celebrate their second straight Super Bowl win and their third overall with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, there was a shooting. And Rob G, fill me in on the latest updates if I miss anything. But it apparently there were about 1 million people there. So it was packed.
Was it that many in Kansas City? Really?
Yeah, greater Kansas City, I believe, is about 2 million. And it was about 1 million. That's what they're saying. I know for the Royals, I think it was the Royal parade for the Royals, it was about 800,000. And so this one they're saying was about 1 million. And it was jam-packed. We went last year. I was there for First Things First, the TV show I co-host on FS1. And we went last year. Of course, my co-host Nick Wright is from Kansas City. So we went back for that. And it was great day early on. You know, the crowd was tremendous, red everywhere, of course. And, you know, they loved the show and me. And even though I didn't pick them, crowd was cool. A little joking here and there about Brew was wrong, and all that. But it was going well. And the team came up and spoke. Chris Jones vowed that he wanted to be back there next year and the year after and all that. Travis Kelce was inebriated, but he spoke. And Patrick Mahomes, of course, spoke, and a few others. So we started taping the show. We pre-taped a little bit of it. And we had taped probably about 45 minutes. We had just interviewed Mecole Hardman, who made the game-winning catch in the Super Bowl. And then they started, our security that was there with us started kind of, hey, we got to get your stuff. We got to go. And I'm like, I didn't know exactly what it was. And then quickly they told us there's an active shooter. And the Chiefs had left the stage, Rob, a few minutes earlier. So some of the crowd was starting to leave, but there still was a good number of people there.
Right.
And so our security, starts taking us, myself and Kevin Wiles, Nick Wright. Nick was concerned about his wife. His wife happened to be around, so we got her, and she had her sister and a friend with her. So, and then the rest of our staff with First Things First, and they start leading us out through the crowd. And as we're going through the crowd, and the crowd, by this point, everybody's leaving. And I would say walking fast. I wouldn't say most people were not running, but walking fast. And I heard, 4 or 5 gunshots, Rob, as we were walking away. And that gave you the impression you didn't know how close they were. I had heard a rumbling that it was inside, but then it got outside, and you just didn't know exactly what was going on. And our hotel was 5 to 10 minutes away, so we went all the way back to the hotel. And then everybody at that point is just in the lobby. I went up to my room, and everybody's watching the news and seeing what's going on. And apparently it was a beef, a squabble, a disagreement between 2 young people, Rob, teenagers. And they had guns on them, and they started shooting. And
there's a lot of shooting. 22 people?
to 24 people. Yeah,
that's a lot of people getting hit with bullets.
Got hit. Well, I don't think every one of them got hit with a bullet. Most of them. But some people got trampled. Thankfully not to death, but trampled or maybe fell, and some people stepped on them as people were leaving, and rushing their way out of there. But Rob, more than half the people, or about half of the people that did get shot, were children below 16, which is it's a bad situation all the way around. But obviously when you hear children involved like that, it makes it even worse. And so, yeah, that was it, Rob. And, I'm fine mentally and emotionally, in prayer for those that, some of these kids saw some of this stuff up close. And so you just pray for their emotional and mental well-being going forward.
But let me
and
ask
obviously
you,
the family of the deceased, one woman who was a local DJ, Rob, on the show, she got killed. And then it was just, people injured and stuff. So keep them lifted.
I've been in that situation, Chris. You remember down at Nationals Park in D.C., you remember there was a shooting across the street, and I was in the building.
Oh, yeah.
And remember that?
You were in the closet, right?
Remember that I was in a broom closet or something.
Yeah.
Remember people, right? And that's why I wanted to ask you, did you hear shots, and at any point, did you fear for your life or safety, or you know what I mean? Because you don't know where it's coming from. I remember that time for me, people started running towards me, Chris, as I'm trying to exit the stadium. So when people run towards me, I'm believing that there's a shooter behind them, right? And he's coming our way.
Oh, yeah.
So that was the scare. That was probably the most scared I've ever been in a public venue. You know what I mean? Where I thought something bad was going to happen. Where were you on that, or was it not close enough? But you said you heard shots, though, right?
Yeah, we were. I had heard, I think one of the security guards or somebody with us, as we were leaving and being rushed out, somebody said the shooting, there were two shooters, and it started inside. So we were a good, I don't know, 75 yards from, maybe 100 yards, I don't know, from the
was that at the
Union
station? Union Station?
Yeah, Union Station,
that's what
the
I
train
read.
station.
Okay.
And so I thought, okay, it's inside, but then they said it got outside. It started inside but came outside. But we were still enough a further distance away. We weren't like a long way away, but enough where I felt like, okay, I'm safe. But then when you heard the shots, and it sounded like firecrackers.
Right, that's what it sounds like.
Yeah,
right.
so you heard the shots, and it did go through my mind, okay, it's maybe, are they out here outside closer than we think? Can some of these bullets get through the crack? You just didn't know.
Right.
It did cause a little bit of doubt as to how close the shooters may have been to you. But I wouldn't say I was fearful, because if I felt like we were far enough away and moving further away where it seemed like we were okay. Yeah. And I didn't see anybody, because again, we're surrounded by people and everybody's starting to move out. I didn't see anybody like get hit or anybody in distress or anything like that.
And I think it's a little different when people are running towards you. You know what I mean? Because then the danger.
You're wondering, like you said, is the danger following them?
Following them. Yeah, why are they running this way? I'm trying to go that way, and that's why I got scared when I was in D.C.
No, I get that. Yeah. And you were in the building, correct?
I was in the stadium.
So there's only so many places you can go. Like, we were literally leaving the scene and, heading away from it. But, Rob, this is becoming too commonplace, obviously, in our country. And you remember last year when the Denver Nuggets won their championship. Now, there were two shootings. Some of these are directly related to the situation. They've said afterwards they don't think that was related to the parade. But some of these are on the periphery and happening the night of a championship or when they have the parade. But the Texas Rangers, Rob, when they won the World Series, there were shootings. The Milwaukee Bucks, remember when they won the championship a few years ago? Shootings. The Dodgers in 2020, shootings. And so Cleveland, even the Cavs, when they won in 2016.
Did they have it too? I didn't remember that.
Yeah, and I think they may have said not sure how related it was, but yeah, they had shootings.
Now,
Toronto even had in 2019. That's obviously not America,
right?
But still,
North America.
Yeah, it's just, Rob, like, this stuff has to stop, because you don't want, like, the young generation. And ironically, I was talking before we went to Kansas City with somebody about, over the weekend, we were having dinner, my wife and I, with another couple, and their children were younger than ours. Mm-hmm. And they were talking about how their children in school, you know how we always used to have tornado drills, right? So what you run, you get by the wall, you get down. You know, like in school they teach
And they
you
had
if you have a
shooting
tornado,
drills?
they have shooting drills.
Yeah,
so in case there's a mass shooter, this is what you do.
Wow.
And it's sad that this generation of young people, Rob, I mean, that's got to steal some of your innocence.
Because, you know what, Chris, I was going to say, and you've covered parades too. Now, I covered the Mets parade in '86. I don't remember any you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
for real. And
Right.
I could be wrong, but I covered it. I don't remember any.
Right.
I covered
the Yankees.
The Yankees
in 99, I covered.
You remember, I was
The
there in
Canyon of
'96. Right. And you know, that's all the way down Broadway, Chris.
Right.
And
it's
all
New
those
York
people
City.
in New York City
Right.
and whatnot.
Yep.
I don't
And
remember.
then we went to a park. You go to a
Right.
park and they start speaking.
And then that's when
all
they
that.
speak. But do you remember shooting in those?
Nope.
That's
Nope.
what I mean. But
Nope.
20 years later, it seems like there's always something now, more so than back then. And maybe I don't want to misspeak, but I don't.
Right.
I covered those
Right.
parades,
I'm not
and
positive, but I don't remember anything.
But I don't
like that.
remember shootings. I don't.
Right. And your first thought, whether it should be or not, is there some type of terrorism, whether domestic or out of the country, you know, somebody out of the country. But it turns out it sounds like, Rob, it was two teenagers.
With all the cops around, though, for a parade,
Well,
that's the other thing.
The
right?
thing is, like, and I wonder going forward, like we're talking about going forward with these things, will some places start doing it inside and a big arena? Because then you won't get as many people, obviously.
No, but you can control
But then you
the
can
scene.
gauge, right? Nobody can come in with a weapon and stuff. Like they had hundreds of cops. I don't know exactly how many it was, but you just couldn't. I mean, there were again 1 million people, and it's way, you know, like people for as far as you can see, and you just can't control who might have a weapon or not. And for the most part, man, everybody was so great. And, you know, Rob, it was, I guess, a celebration. Everybody was just there to celebrate the Chiefs, and they're happy and all that.
It's supposed to be the happiest moment as a sports fan, right?
Yeah,
it's
right.
supposed to be
That's
the
what
happiest.
that's what
Because you don't know if they'll ever win in your lifetime. They won back to back. You know, you don't know. So most people, it's euphoric, Chris, as a fan.
And Rob, a lot of those people probably don't go to the games.
No, they don't get to go, right? So this is their moment.
Yep. Well, what happened yesterday in Kansas City, on top of what's happened over the past decade or so at these championship celebrations, will that deter you at all from going to some of these celebrations in the future? Your thoughts?
Alex, you're the best. Thank you. All right, let's get it kicked off, Chris. Of course, my phone's not up. Matt, who's in Kansas City, you're on the Odd Couple, Fox Sports Radio. What's up, Matt?
Gentlemen, thanks for taking my call.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Yeah, we've been to the parade every year. This year obviously was just a little bit bigger than the other ones.
In Kansas City?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
so, because we've been. And there was more hype with this one because they weren't expected to win, and I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but bigger picture, this fight, we were kind of like in the picture where it was happening. This was developing. There was a group of kids that were arguing with older people, and it got out of hand. And then younger people got into it, and when things started to happen, shots were being fired. They weren't. They had no idea who they were shooting. They were
right.
The guns were being fired. That's why they may have shot their own friends. That's how
Well, the woman that got shot was a local DJ that obviously had nothing to do with it.
Yes, and from where I was, and I'm not saying I saw everything, but these kids were shooting blind, and they were kids, and that's the whole thing, is that these kids were minors. We walked by them at one point. They should have had parents with them. How could you let like a 15, 16-year-old kid be there at the parade without parental guidance? If they were younger than that, I wouldn't be surprised. It went
And
wrong.
to have guns at that age.
Well, yeah. Well,
That's the bigger picture. That's even, and this happens every day in cities, and
Right.
it's a bigger thing to talk about, and it's not your guys' thing to talk about, but I'd love to hear your answer, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
But no, Rob, that's the thing. It does. I mean, Chicago and Baltimore, you know, a lot of our cities in the country, Unfortunately,
You know what's crazy,
these
Chris?
things are almost or sometimes they are a daily happening on a daily basis.
You know what? A story that got like no airtime, I don't think this year. And when I tell you this, you probably won't believe it. Detroit had the lowest murders, Chris, in 50 years in the city of Detroit this past year that went by, which is just mind-boggling.
Awesome.
That
I mean,
is.
it's still
I'm just
probably
saying.
a good number, but it's
but that's
it's good to see at
unbelievable. Am
least
I
some
right to say
progress.
50 years? Like I'm going to send you
Yeah.
the story. But anyway, my point is, this has happened more. This is not just Kansas City. We've seen it at other
no.
events. This has happened and over the last number of years. When before, I think people felt all right with going out in public, and I think you're right. Remember the Rams parade here, Chris, was really small in a closed kind of like was off the campus of USC. So you might be right that it might be an indoor invite only, pass through metal detectors, and you might not see these great parades march down the big cities. You know what I mean? Because you can't control these things.
Man, that's just
a
that would
shame.
be sad. Right? It would very much be a shame if
But
you
it-
have to
it-
change
it-
the way these things are done. Because again, you're talking about 1 million people yesterday. How many you getting into an arena? 20,000.
20,000, right?
You know?
I mean, it would cut off a lot of people. Brian in Montana, you're on the Odd Couple Fox Sports Radio. What's up, B?
Hey, so being from Montana, you know, everybody has guns in our vehicles and houses and stuff. And my thought was, you are correct. Putting it in a stadium would cut that down, but there are ways to get guns and inside those. I can promise you there is.
No, I'm not saying that it's impossible.
Right,
it's not,
nothing
but
really.
because
Most stuff isn't
right.
foolproof.
But you with metal
Right.
detectors, you have a better shot.
Right.
And I don't mean to use that word, but you know what I mean. A better chance of stopping people.
You are correct. You know, and we could sit here all day until the end of time and debate gun control and all that stuff, and that's not what I want to do because I love listening to you guys. Listening on the way home from work every day.
Thank you.
But it just, you know, you can't having all the stuff is just there's no way to stop it, and it's getting worse. I remember I'm 35. Worst thing we had to worry about in school was a tornado coming through, and we don't get tornadoes in Montana.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah. No, it's
And now I got to buy my kids a bulletproof backpack so they're safe at school. I worry about them all the time.
Yeah, I mean,
well,
with
yeah.
the-
You
with-
look at
with
the,
the
I mean, we're talking
right.
about parades. We're not even talking about school shootings, which obviously are on the increase as well. So yeah, it's just unfortunate, man. And we as a society, I think everybody look in the mirror and put yourself in the shoes of somebody else too. And whatever we need to do to cut this stuff down, that's what we should all be willing to do. Because this is ridiculous.